Welcome students. In today's class, we will continue with the presentation by Aditi, and then after that, we will continue with the further discussion on the next topics. Aditi, you now can share your screen.
Okay, sir. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm presenting the topic on Nirvanix. So let us see the overview about the Nirvanix. Nirvanix was an American-based provider of cloud storage services headquartered in San Diego, California, United States. The company offered public, hybrid, and private cloud storage services with usage-based pricing. Based on previous service companies founded in 1998, Nirvanix shut down in October 2013. So it was shut down because on September 16, 2013, Nirvanix notified customers that they had the due date until September 30, 2013 to move the data of the service, at which point Nirvanix shut down. So Nirvanix decided the IBM team could assist customers with transferring this data from the Nirvanix infrastructure. So let us see evolution. Streamload founded in 1998 in San Diego, California by Steve Iverson, a student at Pomona College, was one of the first internet storage services, receiving various accolades for products between 2002 and 2006. The company attracted angel investor and computer software entrepreneur Charlie Jackson and $1.2 million in investment by August 2004. Streamload's flagship product was later renamed to MediaMax and spun off on July 1st, 2007, with the existing company being renamed to Nirvanix. The failure of MediaMax on August 8, 2008 resulted in permanent loss of data for around 20,000 paying customers. Nirvanix denied responsibility for the data loss, saying that the service was contracted by its the link-ups belong to the host, the application, and the database. The company raised $12 million in September 2007 from Mission Ventures, Valhalla Partners, and Involved Ventures. Intel Capital added $5 million in funding in December 2007 and then more funding in April 2009. An additional round was announced in November 2010. On May 3rd, 2012, Nirvanix announced it raised over $25 million in a Series C funding around led by Khosla Ventures, bringing Nirvanix total capital raised to $70 million. Here are some of the features I have listed below. 24/7 monitoring with mobile and email alerts to system administration staff for all processes. Robust encryption support for data uploads. It means that we can encrypt them. Strong password authentication. It is used for authentication process in smart card applications, which stores the user ID in the smart card, which is issued by the server for user authentication, which in turn password given by the validated by the servers. Token-based authentication with server-side session management and checksum error checking and internal integrity checks. There are three technologies which are used by Nirvanix. Cloud file system. It is a virtual file system which is specifically designed to handle millions of users and for the billions of files in a single global namespace with data consistency. Cloud storage network, which consists of 9 globally disposed data centers, which customers can locate data close to users and to choose redundancy level by replicating data to 2 or 3 or more data centers. Cloud NAS gateway software, which installs only on the Windows or Linux servers and provides access to the Nirvanix cloud storage services. Availability and pricing. Nirvanix enterprise pricing is typically contract-based and usually depends on projected total capacity over the life of the contract and the service level agreement level, which corresponds to the data protection policy in geographically dispersed cloud storage nodes. Nirvanix offers flat rate pricing. There are no upload or download, bandwidth or replication charges. Customers receive monthly bills for the capacity they use, and 24/7 enterprise grade customer support is included. Nirvanix also offers a self-service option with up to 2 terabytes capacity paid through a credit card. Nirvanix offers flat rate pricing, monthly pricing for the cloud storage network, which starts at 25 cents per gigabyte for one node at 99.9% availability, 48 cents per GB for two nodes at 99.99% availability, and 71 cents per GB for the three nodes at 99.999% availability. So Nirvanix is nothing but a cloud storage network which provides the industry with simple cloud-based solutions that provide your business with everything so that it can run smoothly and efficiently. Thank you.
A good presentation, Aditi. Give her a round of applause, students. Basically, again, the Nirvanix, as she said, it is also one of the cloud storage provider who had the facility for the users to store their own data on the cloud infrastructure. But unfortunately, in 2013, this particular Nirvanix cloud storage got discontinued because of its internal reasons. They couldn't continue and they decided to close the Nirvanix applications. Fine. Now in the next sessions, let us try to understand the next concepts. Let me try to share my screen. Is screen visible, students?
Yes, sir.
So we have come to a last section of this unit 2, where we are going to discuss upon certain standards, right? The standards which are required in order to have the different types of application, the clients, and the setups which are required as an infrastructure and the different services. Certain technical terms we are going to look into this particular section, that is standards. The standards as an application level, we can have two variations here. One for the communication side. If there is an application as a cloud services, then that particular application, what are the standards used for the communication? So communication here means how the data is getting exchanged between the client and the servers. Two of the techniques or the technologies we are going to briefly look into are, one is the HTTP and second one is XMPP. And on the other hand, there should be a security. Whenever there is a communication happening between two systems over the internet, then definitely there should be an security in order to safeguard the data that is being communicated, right? So as a security, we are going to briefly look into two types of securities. One is SSL and second one is OpenID. Okay, then coming on to the client side, so we are going to look into HTML and DHTML, which you are all already aware about what these HTML and DHTMLs are. Briefly, we will just look into that. And then as an infrastructure, we have already studied the infrastructure that most of the cloud providers, the vendors, they go with an virtualization techniques by including the hypervisors in their infrastructures. So again, little brief on the virtualization and hypervisors, we will look into it. And at the last, the services. Since all the services are provided, the different types of the services are being provided by the cloud vendors, then what type of the mechanism or the standard they used in order to provide that services to the vendors. Two of the services are The first one is called as a REST, that is REST, and second one is SOAP. So these two we are going to look into in the standards section. Okay. So now we are going to begin with the first one with respect to the application, right? So as I said, in the application, we require two things, two different types of standards. The first one is for the communication purpose. When the services are being presented to the user has to get connected to the cloud infrastructure, and the data communication should happen over there. This data communication can be performed, or the implementation can be done in different types of technologies. Okay, we are going to look into only two of them. The first one is HTTP and XMPP for the communication. I think you all are aware about the HTTP, right? Can anyone tell me the full form of HTTP?
Hypertext Transfer Protocol.
Yes, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. What do you know about HTTP? Let us discuss, students, here, because these are some of the terms are very general, which you already have come across with these type of topics. What is HTTP? Can anyone? This is basically a type of a language that is used to communicate between two entities. When there are two computers connected, and in order to happen the communication, the data exchange between the client and the server. Basically, this HTTP acts as a mechanism on a client-server based communication, wherein the client will request the data, and that request will be passed on to the server, and in the response, the server will provide the information back as part of its response. So a kind of a, you can say, client server architecture, or in wherein we require certain type of a request, and for all those requests a response has to be given back. Basically, we can say, summarize it as a communication between two different systems, where client is trying to request the data back from the server. This can be made achieved by using a technology called as an HTTP. Again, HTTP is what? It is an application layer protocol. If you remember, there in the 7-layer architecture or TCP/IP protocol, the OSI reference model or a TCP/IP, at the application level, there are different types of certain protocols, right? The HTTP fits into the application side, right? Application level protocol. As the name indicates, hypertext, right? Hypertext means what? This is a type of a communication where the links will be given onto the application side. Suppose if you're trying to access certain data through the web browsers. On the web browsers, the data is displayed onto you, right? Certain data will be there, kind of a text, but that is not a pure text, but it is nothing but an hyperlink. Hyperlink means there will be a embedded code or the target URL associated with that particular text, and in turn, if you try to click on that particular hypertext, it will navigate or it will request the data from the server, and then the server will respond back with its responses. So this HTTP is one of the way where the communication can be established between the client and the server. Okay, we also call this HTTP as a stateless protocol. I think you have studied it in your third or a fourth semester. Have you studied this HTTP as part of your computer networks or advanced computer network subject in third or a fourth semester?
Yes, sir.
Right. Probably you might have come across with the stateless protocol, right? If not, just try to find out what this stateless protocol means. Okay, I will not go in detail with the explanation of this stateless protocol. Okay, fine. The second type of a technique or the standard is being used is called as XMPP, widely used type of communication nowadays. Okay, now what this XMPP stands for? It is Extensible Messaging Presence Protocol. I don't think so you have studied this in your previous semester. Was it there, this XMPP?
No, sir.
No, right? Okay. Now, XMPP is mostly, nowadays we all use certain applications which require instant messaging, right? Can you name certain examples, certain applications which falls under the category as instant messaging? Can you name it?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, very good.
Messenger.
Messengers. right? We call them to be a instant messaging applications because as soon as you type in the certain type of information data, immediately it is passed on to the other side. Okay, we need not to call it to be a client and server here. We can call it if we wish to, like if one person is sending some information to the other person, then the first person we can call it to be a client and the second would be a server. But basically this XMPP, we cannot conventionally call it to be a client and server architecture of the type, but it can be used over there as well. Now let us learn or understand what actually this particular extensible messaging presence protocol is. Each of these words have got its own meanings. Okay, I will discuss all those meanings in the next slides. Okay. Now, this XMPP, mostly it uses the XML elements. Okay. Now, there comes another concept here, XML. What do we mean by XML? What is the full form of it?
Extensible markup language.
Extensible markup language. What actually it contains? What is the purpose of using XML?
To create web pages.
To create web pages. Okay. Next. Any other point? Anybody else? So basically this XML, we say that XMPP uses the XML type of a streaming to transfer the data. See, whenever, as we are talking about the communication, the data exchange has to be happened between one system to the other system, right? One system we can try to think as it is a user system who is trying to access the data on the cloud interface, right? The data communication, when it's trying to happen through there can be a different types of technologies used in order to transfer the data, right? This XMPP makes use of XML elements, means the content on an application level, the applications which are designed, they may make use of a technology called as an XML in order to transfer the data, right? There are other types of notations like JSON notation. There is one more type of a notation called as a JSON notation. Using that JSON also the data communication can also takes place. And this XMPP allows the exchange of messages, okay, and it also allows to know the presence of the particular entity in a real time. We'll know what this presence information means, okay, in the next particular slide. I will also show you diagrammatically how this particular XMPP allows a two-way communication, whereas the HTTP allows only a one-way communication. Okay, let us understand this, what these terms indicates. X, as we said, it is an extensible. Basically, extensible means what? It is basically a open source project. Open source project means the code available for this XMPP is an open source. Anybody can take that particular project or the open source code, and they can write or they can modify their own content in that one. So open source here we mean to say that the code or the protocol can be modified according to the requirement of the user or according to who is trying to develop these particular applications. Okay, that is what extensible means. Second is message, right? Message means it is the requirement of transferring or requirement of a communication that has to be established between the client and the server, or two different entities or two different computers. So it should be capable of sending messages in a real-time manner. That is very important. This XMPP supports the exchange of the messages in a real-time manner. Okay, now that real-time manner means basically it has certain capabilities to push the data, okay, very efficiently, rather than how it is. If we try to compare with the HTTP, the push mechanism, there is something, a technical term called as a push mechanism. Push mechanism means if there is any change, suppose if try to think something like this, there are two entities, two computers, first say computer A and computer B. Call the computer A to be a user's computer and computer B to be a cloud provider's computer. Now they are trying to communicate, because since it is a cloud computing is happening, means the data is directly being accessed from the cloud infrastructures. Now whenever the modification are being done at the user side, if there are any changes that has happened in the system or to a particular data, the push mechanism in the XMPP is so efficient that it immediately updates back the server with whatever modifications have been happened. That is the push mechanism what this XMPP supports. That's why we call it to be a for a real-time communication. If you want to have, then the application should be designed using XMPP, or it should have the XMPP protocol involved in order to have the proper communication. The third is presence here. Now, I will give you first example of what this particular presence is. Now you open a WhatsApp, okay, and if you try to open a particular your contact over there, you may see certain text like online, right? If the person is already using the, if the person is on the WhatsApp, he or she is using the WhatsApp, then you will see a one word there just below the name of that user, the contact, online, right? What it indicates, what that particular online indicates. Yes. Are you getting my point, student, here? When you try to, when you open the WhatsApp and a particular conversation, if you try to tap on that, then you may see just below the name of that contact a word online. Do you see or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What that online indicates, if suppose if that message is online, is it telling you
The
that
person is using the WhatsApp currently.
currently the person is using the WhatsApp currently? That means, isn't it, the application is showing you the presence of that particular user in a real-time manner, whether the corresponding
Yes,
person
yes,
is
sir.
using presently the WhatsApp or not. That is made available, or that is visible, because of the concept called as XMPP. The P here represents that the presence, or we can say the state of the application which is being used by that particular person, right? The state can be what? Online, offline, or busy, or any other state they want to mention it. The simple example I showed you, I just explained you with the WhatsApp. You can get an online over there. If you're using any other applications, like suppose if you are trying to use this Zoom application, if you have signed into that, if I'm using the Zoom application and I'm in a meeting, then the status will immediately change to the in meeting with a red colored content, red colored or a red font text that says the status or the presence of that particular user at that time, or the current time, we can say in a real-time manner, right? And the last P is, it is a protocol. Protocol means it consists a set of standards that have to be used in order to make use of this particular technology. So XMPP means it is an extensible, a messaging presence protocol. So extensible means it can be changed because it is an open source. M, it allows for the communication of the messages in a real time. P, it shows or it determines the user's presence in a real time, such as the online, offline, in meeting, busy, or whatever is been set by the application. And then the last is the protocol. Understood, students, about this one, what XMPP is? If you find any application which are on the internet or which uses the internet in order to communicate, and if you find certain type of the presences over there, like the different states of the user, that means it is being designed using the XMPP data. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Earlier I said the XMPP is what? A two-way connection. It maintains a bidirectional communication, unlike the HTTP. The thing is, now, just now we discussed that the communication, or we can say the real-time communication, wherein the presence can be retrieved, right? That happens in a two-way manner in the XMPP. Because of that only, it has the efficiency in order to exchange the data in a very quicker time of format in a real time. Unlike in HTTP, it doesn't happen so. In HTTP, it is a purely client server based. Purely client server based means client has to request a certain client has to ask certain request to the server, then only server will give back with its responses. Until and unless there are certain requests, server will not handle anything. It will not entertain anything. So we can say it is like a one way or a one directional, right? Now you may ask now, so, if we don't use HTTP, then is it not possible for us to retrieve the presence of a particular user? If we use the HTTP, then is it not possible for us to get to know the presence of a particular user? Yes, it is possible, but there should be something called some mechanism called as an polling events, right? If you read this particular statement here, it says HTTP requires multiple polling events to update the status from the web server. So polling event means at a regular interval of a time, which is being set at the time of designing. At that particular time, regular interval of time, the client will ask or request certain data from the server, or the client will try to send certain information to the server. That has to be designed, that has to be incorporated at the time of designing. If that happens, then only there can be a presence of the system or any particular user can be known. For example, if the polling event, if it is set to say 5 seconds, 5 seconds means what? Every 5 seconds there will be a polling event just to know the presence of the particular person or a particular system, whether it's the online or a offline. Suppose if the polling event triggers now it will get the response back. The next time the polling event will only trigger after 5 seconds. Within that 5 seconds, if there are any changes happened, then those changes will not be reflected back onto the client side. But on the other hand, if the application uses the XMPP, then in a real-time manner, it happens. There is no mechanism. We need not to have a polling events in the XMPP, because the XMPP design is itself like in a real time, it gets to know the presence of the systems or the users. Understood, students? A better view of how the HTTP and XMPP can be done. Okay. The next is the securities. Since the communication is happening between the two entities, then there should be a security, right? Most of the time, the service providers try to involve multiple or different types of securities over there, right? Mostly, they will come up with two things. One is the encryption and the authentication. So these two we are going to look in as two examples. There are different types of encryptions and the authentication techniques available, but we are going to look into only two of them. The first one is SSL, that is Secure Sockets Layer, as part of the encryption. And for the authentication, we will just briefly look into a concept called as OpenID. Okay, now, shall we have a quick exercise here? I will give you 5 minutes of a time. 5 minutes of a time. Try to know what SSL means and what OpenID means. You can look into of any one of the content. You no need to look both of the things. So you can just look into any one of the thing, and randomly I will ask few students, and they can just explain what SSL and what OpenID means in a couple of sentences. Shall we do that one, students? I'm waiting for your response.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you can just quickly look into any one of them. SSL and OpenID. Nivedita, which one you are looking at?
Sir?
Which one among these two you are trying to search?
Sir, SSL.
SSL. Shivgoda,
Yes, sir.
which one you are looking at?
OpenID, sir.
OpenID. Very good. Siddharth,
Yes, sir. Siddhant it is.
which one?
Sir, OpenID.
Okay. What did you find at OpenID? Definitely you might have got some content for the OpenID.
1 second. Sir, OpenID connection is an identifier layer built on the top of the OAuth 2.0 framework. It allows the third-party application to verify the identifier and the end user and to obtain basic user profile informations.
Okay. Now try to read through that one and understand, and then later you can explain it in couple of sentences.
Okay, sir.
Now, Shivani. Shivani Gowda. Shivani Gowda, are you there? Students, I hope I am audible to you.
Yes, sir.
I'm just removing Shivani Gowda. Now, can anyone explain or try to put the couple of sentences? Don't try to read everything. What basically you understand from the SSL and OpenID? Anyone can try to explain SSL?
So SSL.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the first come first serve. Manisha.
Sir, basically SSL is a protocol, sir, and it is for securing communication on the internet. So the main advantage of this is, sir, while we are transmitting any data to the users, it prevents the third parties from reading it.
Okay, very good, fine. Yes. Next, anybody wants to add certain data information to SSL? Yes, Karuna.
So if there is a connection between the user and a normal HTTP, it will be an insecure connection. And if there is a connection between user and secure HTTP, it will be in encrypted format.
Okay, that is with respect to the HTTPS.
Yes, sir.
The similar thing, can you just try to put it with respect to SSL? Anybody else? Okay. What about OpenID? Yes, Sonam, you want to speak something on SSL?
Yes, sir.
Yes, continue.
SSL initiates an authentication process called a handshake between two communication devices.
Okay. Good. Next.
It also provides a data integrity.
Yes. Now let me try to summarize the SSL here. Okay. Basically, the full form of SSL what is secure sockets layer. So the word secure piece, it tries to have an encrypted link between the client and the server. So at the time of the connection which is happening between the two entities, the connection has to be secured such a way that the communication which takes place can be secured at the time of the connection itself. Nobody else will get allowed into the getting connected. Basically, this SSL has to be done there is something concept called as an SSL certificate. When the server is coming up with the type of a service they want to provide it to the users, for those particular servers on the server side, they need to have, if they want to use SSL as an encryption mechanism, they need to have something called as a SSL certificate. The SSL certificate will have certain details related to the encryptions, okay, which will takes place at the time of linking, or we can say at the time of connection is getting established from the client with respect to the servers. At that time, the certificates will get added into the client side, which will ensure that the third party will not get any interaction, or they will not get any type of connections to the already established connectivity. So this SSL is one of the most widely used encryption which the cloud vendors use nowadays. Like the SSL, there are different types of other encryptions like TLS. There is another type of encryption called as a TLS. You can also look into what TLS means. Okay. Now, second one we will look into in the next class.